Good day, viewers. My name is Audrey Polton. Welcome to our first lesson for grade 9 physical science. The lesson is all about bonding. Let's have a look at the lesson objectives. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to explain the different types of bonding, illustrate covalent bonding as the sharing of electrons when atoms combine, demonstrate ionic bonding as the transfer of electrons to form oppositely charged ions which attract electrostatically. Now that you have seen the lesson objectives, let's start with the lesson. Covalent bonding only happens between nonmetals, while ionic bonding happens between metals and nonmetals. Remember, metals are on the left of the step line and nonmetals right of the step line on the periodic table. Covalent bonding involves sharing of electrons. In ionic bonding, electrons are transferred from a metal to a nonmetal. The metal becomes positively charged. It's called a cation, while the nonmetal becomes negatively charged, called an anion. Ionic bonding is thus the electrostatic force of attraction between oppositely charged ions, which is the cation and the anion, almost like a magnet's attraction force. While covalent bonding is an electrostatic force of attraction between a nuclei and a shared pair of electrons. Let's have a look at covalent bonding. It is happening between two nonmetals. They share electrons to get a full outer shell. In the hydrogen molecule, two hydrogen atoms share one electron each in order to have full outer shells. These full outer shells with their shared electrons are now stable. The oxygen molecule is formed by two oxygen atoms sharing two pairs of electrons. This is a double bond. Ionic bonding is happening between metals and nonmetals. The metals transfer electrons to the nonmetals so that they can have a stable outer shell of electrons. When the metals lose electrons, they will have more protons than electrons and an overall positive charge. When a metal loses electrons, it becomes an ion, and the positive ion is named a cation. Group 1 metals lose one electron and will have a 1 plus charge. Group 2 metals lose 2 electrons and will have a 2 plus charge. And then the group 3 metals, they lose 3 electrons and will have a 3 plus charge. If we look, for example, at sodium, you will see that the neutral sodium atom has 11 protons and 11 electrons and is thus neutral. In order for it to obtain a full outer shell, it loses its one outer electron. The sodium ion has now 11 protons and 10 electrons and thus a charge of 1 plus. During ionic bonding, the nonmetals of groups 5, 6 and 7 receive electrons from the metals. Nonmetals will receive electrons to have a full outer shell with 8 electrons. They will thus have more electrons than protons and have a negative charge. The ions of nonmetals are called anions. Group 7 nonmetals will have a -1 charged anion. Group 6 nonmetals a 2- charged anion. And group 5 nonmetals a 3- charged anion after receiving electrons. Now let us look at the drawing of ionic bonding in sodium chloride and how it happens. Sodium loses one electron and chloride takes that electron. After the transfer of the electrons, each atom forms an ion. These ions have opposite charges and will attract each other. This is called electrostatic charge. Both of the ions have a full outer shell of electrons. They will now attract each other with electrostatic forces. Let us look at the structure of ionic compounds. Ionic compounds can become large compounds. One example of an ionic compound is table salt, which is actually sodium chloride. Ionic compounds form a crystal lattice structure. This ionic lattice is a regular arranged structure with alternating charges packed next to each other. In a lattice structure, there is a regular arrangement of alternating positive and negative ions. The opposite charged ions are electrostatically attracted to each other. The number of opposite charged ions that surround each other depends on the size of the ions and how they are packed together. Wow! We have come to the end of lesson 1. Let's have a look at the lesson summary. Covalent bonding only happens between nonmetals, while ionic bonding happens between metals and nonmetals. Covalent bonding involves the sharing of electrons. Ionic bonding involves the transferring of electrons. The metal will transfer its outer electron to the non-metal. Ionic compounds have a crystal lattice structure. The opposite charged ions are electrostatically attracted to each other. Until next time, goodbye.